With autumn just on the horizon, my urge to start playing survival horror video games is strong. In that spirit, I wanted to start a web show to share some of my favorites with you all. In the past few weeks, the internet has been abuzz with a new installment of a fan favorite franchise. Say that 3 times fast. But it's the way that that new installment was announced that really got people talking. During this year's Sony Gamescom presentation, it was revealed that immediately following the conference, a new survival horror experience called PT from a new indie studio would be available as a teaser on the PSN shop.
Watch out. The gap in the door. It's a separate reality.
Being the horror fan that I am, I immediately went to PSN to start downloading.
The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you?
The experience was truly astounding. Set up as a first-person exploration of an extremely realistic hallway, your goal is, well, just to get out. You see, the hallway loops for what seems to be an endless cycle, with things getting progressively more out of whack and disturbing as you progress. If you've been following the mystery of PT online at all, you'll know that the game leads up to a final room sequence where all that's left to do is trigger the ending, immediately after a fake ending. People's opinions of the game start to split here, since many found the final puzzle to be too obtuse to be enjoyable. However, the developer's point was specifically to have the ending, and thus the big reveal, take weeks to be found, and the cooperation of people on the internet working together necessary in order to obtain it. This didn't wind up happening, since someone beat it accidentally the first night it was up, but since no one could still figure out exactly how or why it was beaten, people still collaborated in the following weeks to try to actually solve the final puzzle. So, unless you've been hiding under a rock since Gamescom, you've already heard the big reveal. This was no indie studio at all, but was actually a teaser to announce the upcoming installment in the Silent Hill series, called Silent Hills, which is going to be a collaborative effort by none other than horror mastermind Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima of Metal Gear Solid fame. Oh yeah, and Norman Reedus stars as the protagonist, who you might know from a little show called The Walking Dead. The name PT was Kojima code for Playable Teaser. Now, I know that the trailer said that it's not directly related to the final game, but I still have pretty high hopes for this one. PT had some seriously amazing visuals, and they even said that they had to tone them down so that it looked like it was from an indie studio. On top of that, the level of horror is definitely what I want from a new Silent Hill game, since it definitely messes with your mind. Even if the story from this teaser doesn't directly wind up in the final game, I am hoping that it's at least referenced, because it's really interesting. Without spoiling too much for those who haven't had a chance to play, you're basically in the front hallway of a home where, in the past, a man went crazy and murdered his whole family, including his pregnant wife, 10-year-old son, and 6-year-old daughter. The gist of the experience is that you're being haunted by the ghost of the dead wife, Lisa. There's a fetus in the sink that's probably the unborn child. And a boatload of other disturbing audio-visual combinations that unfold the story and will make you pee, probably.
Upstanding folks got their welfare cut, got their jobs pulled out from under us. You know what to do. Now's the time. Do it.
So without getting into the final puzzle yet, since I know a lot of people lost interest there, what is it about PT that makes it stand out at this time when the medium kind of seems to have failed the genre? By starting with such a realistic but simple setting, and having you repeat what appears to be the same sequence repeatedly, it builds up a lot of tension. Your mind becomes apprehensive about the unknown, about what could happen next. It uses such a familiar locale, an average-looking home's hallway, to make the unsettling atmosphere and exposition all the more grounded and immersive. There's no HUD. In fact, there's no instruction whatsoever. The controls are extremely limited as well. Aside from one instance, all you're able to do is walk around and zoom in on things, leaving you to feel pretty helpless. After all, it's only natural to feel vulnerable when squinting into the unknown. As you continue looping, things start to turn for the worse and become more disturbing. The progression is paced well, as if you, the player, are going through the same decline in sanity that the man who murdered his family did. Unfolding and reliving the events that happened in the house, all while being stalked by Lisa, make for a genuinely nightmarish experience. And God's help you if she catches you. I swear, no matter how many times I've seen that happen, I'm never ready for it. So what is the deal with the final puzzle? I know I referenced it before, and I hesitated to get into it, and that's because there's a lot to it, and quite frankly, I'm still not sure of anything. What I do know is that once you pass the fake-out ending, and you wake up in the room and start what I call the Infinaloop, your goal is to get the phone in the hallway to ring so that you can answer it and escape to see the trailer for Silent Hills. That's the true ending of this game. This final ending sequence is triggered by hearing 3 baby giggles. Now there's a few confirmed ways to get these giggles to happen, but there's also some other ways that people have seemed to just kind of stumble into them. For the first giggle, wait for the midnight chimes to finish, walk 10 steps straight in any direction, and stop. For the second, with a microphone plugged in, speak Jareth, Kojima, or play the Metal Gear Solid sound as a haunting subsides. Now, it's worth noting that I've gotten the second giggle to trigger randomly while walking around as well. And also, it seems like it's mandatory for you to have a microphone plugged in to do this. People have claimed to beat it without a microphone hooked up, but there's been no evidence to support that. I think you can probably say just about anything into the microphone as long as it's in the right tone of voice and that it has a chance of working, but the few that I've mentioned before seem consistent. For example, one playthrough I was walking around without a microphone hooked up and nothing was working to get that second giggle to happen. So finally I plugged a microphone in and my husband leaned over and jokingly said, "Hi Lisa," into the microphone, and it immediately triggered a second giggle. It was actually pretty creepy. Still others claim that playing this clip of Kojima works as well, but I haven't tried it yet.
Did you like it?
Yes, Kojima, we liked it. Once you do get a second giggle, you need to remain completely still while your controller vibrates. If you do this right, you'll automatically get the third and final giggle, and the phone will start to ring. Go over and examine it, and you'll be one of the chosen who gets to leave and see the truth.
You've been chosen.
People either loved or hated being part of this discovery process. For me, personally, I loved it. It's been a really long time since I've been so completely absorbed in any one thing like this. It was really exciting being part of the community online trying to get to the ending, especially on the very first day when people were still figuring out how to solve the earlier puzzles in the game just to move on. I spent days and days and days just watching people stream it, trying to solve it in big groups and test theories. I refreshed the long NeoGAF thread about the game almost constantly, and I put in hours and hours myself trying different ways to trigger the ending on my own. It was super intriguing, got people talking about the game and working together, and in my opinion really gave the horror game community a much needed revival on a large scale. This was an incredibly effective social experiment as well as a marketing tool. Some people have said that PT makes them worry about the fate of the final Silent Hills game. To those people, I say nay. The trailer itself specifically says that it's not a direct representation of how the final game is going to be. PT was made specifically to throw people off the trail and to be solved as a group effort. A final single-player game is not going to do these same things. To be honest, PT was barely a game at all, and more of a social experiment and a marketing tool. There's really no need to worry that the final game is going to be like this. They've all but explicitly said that it's not going to be the case. It's also worth noting that Guillermo del Toro was working on a game with THQ before they went under, titled Insane. PT is very likely the remnants of that concept. The definition of insane, after all, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. It fits this endless hallway theme to a T, maybe even a PT. So I think it's a fair assumption that PT was made up of the remnants of Del Toro's work from Insane, combined with Kojima's engine and a dab of Silent Hill style storytelling. If you have access to a PS4, I can't recommend this teaser enough. It's completely free and absolutely one of the best gaming experiences of the year. I've been playing through it with everyone I possibly can. If you aren't the type of person to get immersed enough in horror for it to work on you, well, quite frankly, I'm not sure why you're watching a show about horror games. But you should still check it out nonetheless, since at the very least, it's going to be remembered as a really unique experiment in gaming history. Thanks so much for watching this first episode of my new show. If you liked what you saw, why not like and subscribe? Next time, I'll be taking a look at Five Nights at Freddy's.